Right, to another reading from The Science of Mind magazine, the Daily Guides. Oops. Looks like I have a cat that's joining me. Hopefully the music in the background isn't too disturbing. Of course, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day is actually tomorrow. And I guess I was reminded of something today when Reverend Lisa, who calls herself an army brat, told us the difference between Armed Forces Day, which is celebrating those people in the armed forces, Memorial Day, where we celebrate those who fell in battle or in the line of duty, shall we say, and Veterans Day, which of course occurs in November, which is for those who are still alive and were in the armed services. So there you are then. Did you know that? Maybe not. I don't know. Today's reading, I'm just going to be fairly brief since it's a holiday weekend. Surprisingly, there were quite a few people at the service today, more than I expected, because I had known that some people were off traveling, so it was kind of wild. Today's reading is called Belonging versus Fitting In. Belonging versus Fitting In. First quote is from someone I think you've all heard of, Brené Brown. Belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. And as I said, that was Brené Brown. And in the Science of Mind textbook, once again on page 453, this is what Ernest Holmes had to say. Let each resolve to be true to themselves, true to their inner light, true to the truth as they understand it. That's very similar to a quote from the Buddha. I'm not going to go the whole quote, but essentially the Buddha said, don't believe it because you heard it, somebody said it. In one quote, he said, don't even believe it because I said it, a wise man said it. It's out there in the public knowledge. It's in a book, it's written. He said, no, search for it yourself. And this is what Reverend Ryan has to say. I came across a quote recently by Brené Brown from her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And Reverend Ryan says, I believe this sums up perfectly a challenge in life we often encounter. She said, fitting in is about assessing a situation and becoming who we need to be accepted. Belonging, on the other hand, doesn't require us to change who we are. It just simply requires us to be who we are. I don't know where this little... Oh, there she is. One of our three cats came in. Reverend Ryan continues, so often our goal may be to blend in, fit in, not be too much or take up too much space. The result equals minimizing who we are, creating a false persona, being dependent on the perceptions of others, and basically missing out on the fabulousness that comes with the ability to be our authentic selves. We try to stuff our big selves into boxes that are 100 sizes too small. And wow, can it get cramped in there? How can we leave that thinking behind and step into something new? First, we must rewrite our goal. Yep, get out your pencil and erase the goal of fitting in and replace it in ink with belonging. With this, of course, she's speaking metaphorically, but you can also do it literally. With this comes an intention to unleash our whole self on the world, breaking out of the small box of fitting in and deciding to show up in increasingly authentic ways. This is an evolving process, one that invites us into a deeper relationship with ourselves, which in turn up-levels all of our interactions and relationships. In doing so, we say goodbye to fitting in and create new and safe spaces for belonging. Well, I know as teenagers, most of us went through that fitting in phase, right? And to some extent, it does carry on in later life, just to fit in and be who we are. And that's why I think the quote that let me see if I can find it here. Well, let me see. Oh, yeah, here it is. Well, maybe it's not. Oh, here we are. Yeah, this is it. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention names of apps I use because this gets on YouTube, it gets Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. But I mentioned before, I use an app. Actually, I use two apps every day in my spiritual practices. I mentioned this morning at our spiritual center when I did the announcements. And occasionally, when I find it really good enough, I'll share it with some of my buddies, and I'll share it with Reverend Jesse, Reverend Lisa, Danielle, Michael, and some of our practitioners. And it says, sometimes the people around you won't understand your journey. They don't need to, it's not for them. So in other words, it's the same thing, the saying belonging versus fitting in. You know, in religious science in general, and unity in particular, and unity in general, the basic difference between what we teach and what other religions teach, or more than religions, other ways of thinking teach, is that we're basically responsible for our own actions. You know, we don't believe that there is some divine being sat on a big throne up in the sky, staring down at you, ready to zap you if you don't get it right, or reward you if you, quote, do get it right, whatever get it right means, which essentially means that we are personally responsible for everything we do. We're responsible for our own actions. And it goes back to what I heard Reverend Jesse say all those years ago when he said, there's no such thing as sin and punishment, but there is cause and effect. So when you do something, whether it's thinking or actually performing an act, physical act, or whatever, there's going to be a reaction to it somehow, some way, somewhere in this whole universe. There will be a reaction to it. So I think, as Reverend Ryan's saying, when we start just trying to simply fit in instead of going with our own inner belief systems, we cease to be authentic about who we are. And it affects our behavior, but it also affects us personally because it does cramp our style. Reverend Ryan refers to putting ourselves into boxes that are 100 times too small, or sizes too small. It does cramp our style. Because if you think about it, if you're in a group and you don't exactly fit in, and you start changing your at least the way you appear to them to fit in with them, then you're not being your authentic self. You're not allowing yourself to grow. I don't think this message today needs a lot of unpacking. It's very similar to messages we've had all month long from Reverend Ryan, which is really about being authentic. I'm open to the exploration of my authentic self and to creating space for others to do the same. So that's the affirmation. There's two aspects to this. One is, hey, I'm willing to go into different ways and means of exploring who I am, but also at the same time, I'm going to give other people the space to do what they want to be. Too often in life, either people have tried to push us into doing something. My family tried to push me into becoming a lawyer, studying law, becoming a lawyer. And I didn't want to do it, so I became an engineer. And then oftentimes we ourselves have done the same, and especially parents with kids. It's very easy for parents to decide, hey, I can see your life for you better than you can. Well, no, you can't. You may be able to see opportunities, but you can't know what's inside of that person. In fact, I think all this comes down to you never know what's going on in somebody else's mind. You just never ever do. And therefore, we should give them the space to be themselves. And conversely, we should be open to accepting who we are, and other people should give us the opportunity to be ourselves. I guess I'm belaboring this, aren't I? But it's the weekend, it's Sunday. Tomorrow, for most people, is a holiday. It won't be a holiday where I come from because they celebrate this particular occasion. They have a different name for it. Remember, it's Sunday, but it's on a different day. But it's the same idea. So just do this. When you go, whatever way you think about the world, and if you're a praying person in whatever way you pray, just hold in light all those people right now who have lost loved ones because of war, and just hold up all those who've gone before us and thank them for the service that they passed on. Whether they can hear you or not doesn't matter, because it affects how you look at the world, and gratitude never ever can go astray. Gratitude is always a really, really good thing. So take care of yourselves. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll probably tell you a bit more about the service tomorrow, but I think this is enough for today, don't you?